What is going on, everybody? It's the Frost, and we're here for a SmackDown review. A quote-unquote Wrestlemania SmackDown. Why? Because the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal was on this episode, as well as the SmackDown Tag Team titles being defended in a fatal four-way instead of on WrestleMania. Now, going into the show, it's wondering why the tag team titles not being defended on WrestleMania. Why is the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal not on the pre-show of Night 2 for WrestleMania? I don't get it at all. I don't know what they're going to do for the pre-show Night 2, because Night 1's not getting a pre-show, because WWE wants to save that first entrance in front of fans for the first time in well over a year for the opening match. That opening match, of course, has been decided, and that opening match will be Drew McIntyre challenging for the WWE Championship against Bobby Lashley. That is what we're getting, and it's going to be what starts us off at WrestleMania, which means WrestleMania Night 1 will be headlined by Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair. Now, of course, this is not the first ever women's main event in WrestleMania history. Of course, that was Ronda Rousey, Charlotte, and Becky Lynch, which was a forgettable match. Very forgettable match. Now, going into that show, that match started well past midnight. After 7 hours, it felt like 5, 6, 7 hours of wrestling in one night. They're not going to have that problem this time around. There's only 7 matches on Night 1, 7 matches on Night 2. And to be honest, outside of Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins versus Cesaro, and Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair, the rest of the pay-per-view card for Night 1 is very forgettable. Yes, you have the New Day versus AJ Styles and Omos, with Omos making his in-ring debut, but there is nothing else. You have Braun Strowman versus Shane McMahon in a steel cage match, a tag team turmoil match, which honestly should have been on this show, with Lana, Naomi, Dana Brooke, Mandy Rose, Riot Squad, Liv Morgan, Ruby Riot, and Natalya and Tamina, as well as Carmella and Billie Kay. Which, who wants to see that? That's going to be on Night 1. If they were having a pre-show match on Night 1, they probably would have put that tag team turmoil match on there, because that match does not deserve to be on WrestleMania. The women's tag team titles do not deserve to be on WrestleMania. Plain and simple. They've done nothing but shit on those titles week in and week out. And why would anybody want to suffer through a 10-woman tag team turmoil match just for the benefit of WWE getting all these women on WrestleMania? If you here's the thing. I know Carmella bitched about it. I know other women have spoken out. There's not enough women on WrestleMania's card. Well, when half of the fucking women in the women's division are the drizzling shits, they don't deserve to be on WrestleMania just because they got to try and get everybody on WrestleMania. I'm sorry, it just doesn't work like that. So, yeah, there's that. We start the show off with Daniel Bryan coming out. We have to have that final hype for the match between Daniel Bryan, Edge, and Roman Reigns. Now, I'm going to go out there and say this right now. Daniel Bryan, Edge, and Roman Reigns all went out there tonight and gave you probably some of the best promos of their career. I just don't care about Edge. Edge is just somebody who needs to retire forever. I don't want to see Edge wrestling at WrestleMania. What I want to see, we'll talk about that when we get to the predictions after we're done talking about SmackDown, because what I want to see is what needs to happen, and we move on from there. But we're going to get to that in a bit. Brian C. says we are the closest to the biggest event of the year, WrestleMania 37. Brian says he's excited. Everyone is excited. He's excited about everything, to see the set, smell the smoke of the pyro, feel the human air in Raymond James Stadium. What the fuck that means. But what he's excited about the most is finally hearing the roar of the WWE Universe in person. He loves the Thunderdome and thinks it's incredible, but it's absolutely nothing like wrestling in front of a live audience and doing it at WrestleMania. And there's absolutely nothing like winning the Universal title in the main event around another yes chant. Yeah, he can't wait to walk in the ring with 25,000 people chanting yes, because there's nothing like it. He goes on about criticism against him, including how They say he doesn't deserve to be in the main event of WrestleMania. He says, damn right he deserves to be it. He does deserve it. He's lucky because every time people told him no, his mentors and parents told him to ignore the negativity. Bryan goes on and gets another a fake yes chant going, which, God, yes, 25,000 people actually chanting yes will be great. Will that happen? We'll talk about that later. Bryan says, every time life told him no, he said yes. Doctor said he'd never be able to wrestle again. He said yes, he would. People said he'd never be world champion again. When he returned, he said yes. Of course, he was at the end of 2018 when he had that spectacular heel run between November of 2018 and WrestleMania 35. He said he would. People said he would never be able to make Roman tap at Fastlane. Roman said no. I said yes. Which, he technically made him tap, but there was no referee to make it official, so it's not in the record books that he tapped out Roman Reigns. Can Bryan main event WrestleMania one more time? Adam Pearce first said no, but then he said yes. Bryan says this Sunday is by far the biggest match of his career, a triple threat match for the Universal title. WWE Hall of Famer Edge on one side, furious thinking about Bryan stole the spotlight that was reserved for him. Which, hold that word spotlight into your minds because we'll get to that later with Edge. On the other side, Reigns, who was worried about tapping out again and losing his spot as the tribal chief. Bryan says Edge and Reigns are two of the most dangerous men in WWE, but they're going to have to face the best version of Daniel Bryan they have ever seen. The most dangerous version, the same one who tapped out Roman and tapped Roman out. And the same one with the fire in his eyes and his heart, who is still willing to do anything. Bryan says that brings him one more question. Can he walk out of WrestleMania main event as Universal Champion? Yes. And then he starts doing the yes motion. So, very, very fire promo by Daniel Bryan. Definitely wish, he says he can be the champion at WrestleMania. I really wish that was a possibility. I hope, there's a part of me that's I'm hoping that Daniel Bryan wins the Universal title, but there's a part of me that also is there's no fucking reason that Daniel Bryan should even be in the conversation for Universal Championship right now. What was Daniel Bryan doing at the beginning of this year? Losing to Nakamura, losing to Cesaro, losing to Cesaro again. Then he goes into the Elimination Chamber, wins the match, and then loses to Roman Reigns in 90 seconds. Why does this guy even think he deserves a spot at WrestleMania in the main event, mind you? He really doesn't. They're trying to tell you that Daniel Bryan deserves to be in the main event at WrestleMania when quite clearly he does not. I don't care what they're trying to do. You can't have somebody just go out there, job, have one good month in a year, and then be in a title match. It just shouldn't work like that. So, great promo by Daniel Bryan, but should he be in the main event of WrestleMania? No. Why is he in the main event of WrestleMania? It's quite simply. Edge is old. Edge looks old, looked older than he does now until they made him dye his beard and his mustache and whatever else kind of hair, dye his hair so he could look younger. So yeah, there's two reasons why Daniel Bryan's in here. The first is Edge looks old and Edge looked older before they had him dye everything. The other reason we'll talk about in the predictions. Kayla Braxton is backstage with Street Profits. They're chanting yes as well. They get hyped about winning the titles back tonight. They suddenly get attacked by the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, Robert Roode and Dolph Ziggler. Roode and Ford fight to the stage. Angelo Dawkins gets the upper hand on Ziggler. Chad Gable and Otis run out to join in. Rey Mysterio and Dominic Mysterio also join the fight. The four teams brawl down to the ring as Rey gets launched into the barrier. We go to commercial break. And we come back for the Fatal 4-Way SmackDown Tag Team titles. Alpha Academy versus Mysterio versus Street Profits versus Roode and Ziggler, the Dirty Dogs. Here's what I think. This match should have been at WrestleMania. The tag team turmoil match. The 5-team tag team turmoil, 10 women, should have been tonight. The winners going to WrestleMania Night 2. The match that you have, this Fatal 4-Way here, should have been at WrestleMania. This match has, every match outside of a few at WrestleMania have had really piss poor build. Well, I'm going to rant on that when we get to the predictions, but this match should have been at WrestleMania. The fact that Dominic and Rey Mysterio, honestly, my prediction earlier this year, which of course was 100% wrong, of Dominic versus Rey Mysterio at WrestleMania would have been a way better match and a way better thing for WrestleMania than Lana and Naomi versus Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose versus the Riot Squad versus Natalya and Tamina versus Billie Kay and Carmella. Having these guys stuck in a tag team going into the WrestleMania weekend and just missing WrestleMania by a day is sad. Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins, what were they doing at WrestleMania last year? Why? They were defending the Raw Tag Team Championships on, what was it, night one? Night two. It was night two. Oh, yeah, night two. They were defending the tag team titles against Angel Garza and Austin Theory. What was Otis doing last year? Otis was defeating Dolph Ziggler and getting that kiss from Mandy Rose that deserved to have a crowd react to it after one of the best builds going into WrestleMania 36. What was Rey Mysterio doing last year? Injured, if I'm correct. And Dominic Mysterio wasn't a part of WWE yet, so we're not going to go there. And what was Robert Roode doing? Absolutely nothing. What was Chad Gable doing? Absolutely nothing. But yet, Dolph Ziggler and Otis miss out on WrestleMania. The Street Profits miss out on WrestleMania. Why? Because WWE wanted to put this match on SmackDown. Again, the Tag Team Turmoil match could have been here tonight, saving a spot for WrestleMania for a match that was way better and would be way better than that. Ziggler and Roode retain the championships as Chad Gable goes for the big Chaos Theory German suplex on Dawkins, but Ford tagged in illegal, hits the huge frog splash. Ziggler tags in and super kicks Ford out of the ring. Roode tagged in as Ford was getting done with the splash. He gets in, covers Chad Gable 1, 2, 3, and they retain the championships. I wish this would have been a Fatal 4-Way elimination match. Just because I don't like Fatal 4-Way matches, especially when it's only 2 men in the match instead of 1 of each team. Same thing with triple threats. They need to have 1 of each tag team in the ring. I know it makes it a little bit more of a mess. But if you're going to do this, make an elimination match. Cuts it down to 2 teams at the end, and you can have yourself a good 5 minutes, 10-minute match of 2 teams, giving you a much better match. But Ziggler and Roode retain. Kayla's backstage with Bianca Belair. Belair has butterflies about challenging SmackDown Women's Champion Sasha Banks at WrestleMania 37 on night 1 in the main event. That's not a bad thing as she's nervous and excited. She recalls some advice from her dad and thinks about how he raised her, and she's confident about this opportunity of a lifetime she's been working so hard for, and now the entire world is watching to see what she can do. She talks about Banks' success and experience, but Belair isn't worried. Says when she wins the title, it will be the greatest night of her life. Well, we'll have to see what happens, and I'll give my predictions on that when we get there. So the Peacock, and now they hyped the Peacock, WWE Network crap, don't really care. Back from break, and we get a quick promo from WrestleMania 37 on Saturday and Sunday. Graves says limited combo tickets are still available. This is what I find funny. WWE is disappointed that they only have 25,000 per night. That's going to be 50,000 people if they have a complete sellout. 50,000 tickets. Most of those went to scalpers, if I'm correct. WWE really thought, because it's been a year, it's been over a year since they were able to sell tickets and get people into a building for a pay-per-view event, or any event in general. They figured tickets go on sale, they'd be sold out within hours. We're a night away from WrestleMania. 1 night away from WrestleMania Night 1. And they still haven't sold out WrestleMania. You want to know why? Because of how piss poor they have booked the build to WrestleMania. From day 1. From jump at the Royal Rumble, which is when they usually start the build. The night after. The build has been piss poor at best. Everything they have done has just been shit after shit after shit after shit. Nobody really wants to come to WrestleMania. Because outside of Lashley and Drew McIntyre, which has had a good, decent build, the triple threat match that we've had, which has had a decent build, Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair's build has been pathetic. Big E and Apollo Crews has probably been some of the best build they've had. The promo Big E cut on this show tonight was fucking fantastic. There's really nothing that you care about. Rhea Ripley and Asuka was only booked a couple weeks ago. There's nothing on WrestleMania 37 that screams, I have to be there to see it. Like, seriously, who wants to watch Braun Strowman versus Shane McMahon in a steel cage match just so Shane McMahon can do a dive off the top of a 15-foot high steel cage and damn near kill himself? That's old news. Randy Orton versus The Fiend. By the way, Randy Orton versus The Fiend is a singles match. I'll get my rant on that later, but yeah. Matt Riddle versus Sheamus. Last minute match. Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens. On paper, should be a hell of a match. But it's only been booked 2 weeks ago. Off of barely any build. The women's tag team titles have been an afterthought. Roman Reigns is probably one of the biggest parts of this show. Bad Bunny and Damian Priest versus The Miz and Morrison. Who fucking cares? The fact that Miz was WWE champion less than a month ago now has to go put over a fucking rapper. A rapper that didn't hear about until the Royal Rumble. There's literally almost nothing on this card that anyone's going to care about. Seth Rollins versus Cesaro could be a very good fucking match. It should be a very good fucking match. It's Claudio's first match, singles match in the WrestleMania history. Which, oh boy, let's talk about that promo here in a bit. But yeah, there's literally 14 matches over 2 nights. And this is some of the worst build I have seen in WWE history for a pay-per-view. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I can't tell you anything otherwise. It's just how bad they have done. And the fact that they want to go out there and be upset or disappointed that they didn't sell out WrestleMania immediately. That's on them. Unless you're going to actually go out there and give us a pay-per-view worthy build to WrestleMania and actually gives people a reason to give a shit about your show, you have no one to blame but yourself. And that's all there is to it. So, yeah, there is that. So they sent us a video of Big E returning to his roots in Tampa. We see him cutting a promo on Apollo Crews while visiting his barber. He visits the downtown Tampa area and talks about his Tampa prep school where he learned about getting taught discipline and how to grind, and where he wrestled at the school, became a state champion there. Then talks about Raymond James Stadium and playing in his high school all-star game at this 17 years ago. Hyped out, raises his title and warns that he will walk into WrestleMania and out at WrestleMania as the Intercontinental Champion. And while they will be performing Big E's theme, Feel the Power, at WrestleMania, which goes one of two ways. Usually when someone gets a theme song at WrestleMania, they're usually on the losing end unless you're Triple H. Just saying. And then we go to Nia Jax versus Tamina. And if I could tell you that I gave a shit about this match, I'd be lying to you. Who thought that right before WrestleMania, here's what I want to do. I want to see Tamina versus Nia Jax in a match to build towards it for this tag team turmoil match that nobody's gonna care about. Holy shit. Now, I will say there was a part of this match that was pretty interesting. It was the fact that Nia goes over, she shoves Tamina down, and Nicole's like, oh, nobody can, Nia shoves Tamina down. It's like, oh, nobody can match Nia's strength. Then Tamina shoves Nia down, and like, you get that look on Nia's face, like, oh shit, what the hell? And they fight for a little bit more. It's boring as shit. Looks like we get a Samoan drop on Nia Jax by Tamina, which was very impressive. But Shayna Baszler stops that, and we get a DQ. Natalya and Tamina send the champions running, and that is that. Will they win the tag team turmoil at WrestleMania? Who fucking cares? This company doesn't know how to book a good show. Doesn't know how to book the tag team championships for the women to be interesting at all. So again, why should anybody care going into WrestleMania? So we go backstage, and Kayla Braxton's with the Riot Squad. Bayley Kay introduces her tag team partner, Carmella, which Bayley is not on WrestleMania at this time. Bayley, who is well documented in being really good friends with Carmella, even back to their NXT days, is not teaming with Carmella at WrestleMania. Holy shit, what the hell? Like, can someone explain to me why, out of everybody who should be at WrestleMania, it should be Bayley? Bayley fell off the face of the earth. Bayley was the women's champion for SmackDown for over 300 and some days, almost an entire year. I think she was over an entire year, maybe, just maybe. But she lost that tag team championship, the women's championship, to Sasha Banks. They had a rematch. She had a small mini feud with Bianca Belair, and then she fell off the face of the earth, and hasn't done shit since. And here we are, a year after Bayley was defending her title, right? She defended her title the next night at WrestleMania 36, right? She defended the title at WrestleMania 36 in a... here we go. Can't remember this shit. Let me see here. Yeah, she defended the title against Lacey Evans, Naomi, Sasha Banks, and Tamina in a fatal 5-way elimination match. And yet, 1 year later, she's nowhere to be seen. It's as if Bayley doesn't exist. Now, there is talk that maybe Bayley will be using... They'll have Bayley have her terrible, which I don't care for, talk show, Ding Dong Hello, on the pay-per-view card, and have Bayley have Becky Lynch as her guest, bringing Becky Lynch back into the fold so we see Becky Lynch for the first time in over a year as well. Which, if that's a way to get Bayley on WrestleMania, fine, I guess. It's a shitty way to do it because Bayley honestly deserves better after carrying the women's division on SmackDown for over a year. But if that's the way they want to go, that's the way they're going to go. It sucks that all these women are getting on WrestleMania in a shitty tag team turmoil match while Bayley is just nowhere to be seen. That sucks. That sucks for somebody who put the women's division and SmackDown on her back for over a year and gets nothing for it. So all these women, they brawl. Tamina and Natalya come in, they beat everyone down, and they're left standing. Who gives a shit? Then we get a vignette. I really, really fucking wish I had this vignette from Seth Rollins, Cesaro, because I honestly felt like Cesaro and Seth Rollins were running for government office. Because you had this video come up and it's like, Cesaro has never had a singles match at WrestleMania. He's never even been Universal Champion. Is this the kind of example we want to set? While Seth Rollins has been a 2-time Universal Champion. He's main evented at WrestleMania. He had the heist of the century. This video has been paid for and brought to you by the friends of Seth Rollins and has nothing to do with Seth Rollins. And I'm thinking, is Seth Rollins running for some local government? I know there are some open seats in Congress that because of retirements and whatnot. Maybe he's running for that. Maybe this is what that's for. But I didn't expect that for a match at WrestleMania. Really weird. Back we have Edge in the ring with a steel chair. He sets it up. We go to commercial break. We come back. Edge is sitting there. Spotlight on him like Batista did back 11 years ago when Batista was being that dick, wannabe, like that dick heel. Edge is sitting in the chair, spotlight on him. He says he knew what he wanted to do in his life after seeing WWE Hall of Famer Randy Orton and the Ultimate Warrior at WrestleMania 6. He talked about having to manifest things for his dream. He became a WWE superstar who accomplished everything but ending his career on his own terms. He goes on about having his career ripped away from him. This is all he wanted to do. He fought and ripped his career back out of the hands of fate. He didn't come back for the greatest hits tour to be a shell of his former self. He came back to steal the show in main event WrestleMania. Well, Edge, you are a shell of your former self. Did you watch your match back with Jey Uso? You looked fucking awful. You looked like you should be sitting at home, watching, or in the Performance Center, helping talent get ahead or becoming better. Because, my goodness, did you not look good at all against that match against Jey Uso. His match with Randy Orton didn't look any better as well. So, yeah, you want to talk about being a shell of yourself, you were definitely 100% a shell of your former self. And that's just my opinion. It says, Reigns walks around here acting like everyone owes him something, but he says, you owe me. I owe you nothing, but you owe me everything, Roman. He says, you started in a three-man group, came from the audience, you're the spiritual finisher. You're a Samoan Edge. Edge? You forget to mention the fact that you didn't start in a three-man group. You actually started and had a couple matches on your own before joining the Brood. So, before you say anything like that, no, you didn't start as a three-man group, even though he might have, you didn't. Goes on, bitches and complains the fact that Daniel Bryan is stealing his thunder. That match that everyone, he's like Daniel Bryan is stealing this match from us, and a match that everyone wanted to see. And I'm thinking, hold on a minute. Who actually wanted to see Roman Reigns versus Edge at WrestleMania 1-on-1? Because I sure as hell didn't. Seriously, why the fuck would I want to see this match at WrestleMania? You know what I wanted to see at WrestleMania? After everything that's been going on, I wanted to see Daniel Bryan versus Roman Reigns 1-on-1 with Daniel Bryan being built up as the guy who could possibly make Roman Reigns lose that Universal Championship. Or Daniel Bryan coming just short after having a hell of a match between Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan. That should be the main event on night 2. Edge should be sitting at home doing fucking nothing. He should not even be anywhere close to the main event of WrestleMania. Just the fact that WWE decided that, he says that he's not a part-timer. Really, Edge? Because you have had two singles matches since you've been back. You were in the Royal Rumble. You had a match with Randy Orton, I believe, the next night or a few nights after. I think it was the next night, actually. And then you didn't have a match again until the Friday before Fastlane. So don't sit there and act like you're just this goody two-shoes guy who's coming back to not be doing the greatest hits, because that's all you've been so far, is a guy who's just having the greatest hits. And the fact that this guy pushed to be in the main event of WrestleMania and win the Royal Rumble, this was not Vince McMahon's idea. This was Edge's idea, because he's going to go out there and he's supposed to be this big triumphant hero. Listen, Edge, you're not Daniel Bryan. You're not a guy that people cheered for years, wanting him to be the world champion, that getting ripped away from him because of concussions. Fighting his damnedest to come back and be the Daniel Bryan that everybody loved. Yes, he turned heel. Yes, he became a champion when he became heel, giving us one of the best heel performances going into WrestleMania 35 2 years ago. You think you're good enough to be in that spot, Edge? Give me a fucking break. You're nothing but an old-timer hack who shouldn't be anywhere near the main event of WrestleMania just because things didn't go your goddamn way. If you were so desperate to come back and be anything special, you shouldn't have taken 10 fucking years to do it. Right now, you're just an old-timer coming back, stealing spots from everybody who worked their fucking ass off year in, week and week out, year in and year out, only to be told that, we're going into the Royal Rumble and everybody who worked their asses off, you don't fucking matter because this guy who has a name that everybody knows is coming back to take your spot because that's how we are. Give me a fucking break. Edge, You're nothing but fucking garbage. You don't deserve anyone's fucking respect. You don't deserve to even be here anymore. What I want to see at WrestleMania is this. Edge takes the pinfall from Roman Reigns, comes out in the next SmackDown, and is like, listen, I did all I could do. I wasn't good enough to win at WrestleMania. I'm done. I'm going home. I was able to end this on my fucking terms. I don't want to see Edge on this fucking card, on this show, after WrestleMania. Period. I don't care about his triple-fusing neck surgery either. You know what happened? He had his big return last year. That's what 2020 was for. That's when you could celebrate Edge as this big triumphant hero returning. Not 2021. Who gives a shit? Edge, you had your time. It's over. Let other people have their spot that they work their ass off year in and year out for, because you're just a waste of fucking space now. Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville are backstage talking about the Universal Triple Threat match. Deville doesn't think it's fair that Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode had to defend their SmackDown Tag Team titles tonight against 3 other teams. She also doesn't think the Triple Threat at WrestleMania is fair. Yes, Bryan probably deserves a title match somewhere down the road, but it should be Edge versus Roman at WrestleMania. She walks off. I think they're starting to push this to where eventually Sonya Deville is going to be running SmackDown and Adam Pearce is going to be running Raw. And they'll eventually, hopefully next week when we go to the after WrestleMania, they can finally be like, yeah, well, we're going to have general managers on Raw and SmackDown again, with her being the SmackDown general manager and Adam Pearce being the Raw GM, because that's pretty much what he's been for 9 months now. It seems for a while now that he's been the general manager of both shows. Everyone goes to him. Everybody demands matches, and he gives them out to them. So, yeah, I totally can see that that's where they're going with. I mean, what else are they going to do with Sonya Deville? She hasn't really been wrestling since she's been back. She's been more of a secondary GM. So it's either get her back in the ring or get her to be the second GM. Or the GM of one of the shows. I don't know which one you want to go with, though. So we'll see what they go with. Back from break, Kayla Braxton is with SmackDown Women's Champion Sasha Banks. She says she asked for a response, and Bianca Belair said earlier, Banks doesn't care what Belair has to say. It's the other way around. Belair has, and everyone else wants to know what the champ has to say. She says Belair may be the EST of WWE, but she's not the best because Banks is and always will be. She welcomes Belair to giving her all tomorrow because she's going to be giving it more back, boss style. Banks says she will make Belair tap out and make her realize her place beneath her. Banks goes on and says she will leave WrestleMania as champion. She does her annoying laugh because she has to show that she is absolutely the heel. And that ends the promo. Cole leads us to a video package of Drew McIntyre versus champion Bobby Lashley. Don't give a shit. Moving on. More bullshit with Sami Zayn, Logan Paul crap. Don't really care. Honestly, I still don't know why they're bringing him in. He promises to beat Owens at WrestleMania. Battle Royale participants start coming in the ring. Owens attacks Sami Zayn at ringside. Sami blocks a stunner and retreats, and Owens yells at him he'll see him at WrestleMania. And we go into the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, which we have Akira Tozawa, Angel Garza, Cedric Alexander, Drew Gulak, Elias Eric, Grand Metalik, Humberto Carrillo, Jackson Riker, Kalisto, Lindsay Dorado, Mace, Murphy, Mustafa Ali, Ricochet, Shelton Benjamin, Shinsuke Nakamura, Slapjack, T-Bar, Tucker, and Baron Corbin, who makes his own entrance. Now, first thing I have to say about this is Retribution broke up on the pre-show of Fastlane. Why are T-Bar, Mace, and Slapjack still being called out as names? What they should have did was when they left, take their mask off, throw it away, and walk out. But they didn't do that. They still have these ridiculous, stupid-ass names. Just saying. Now, do I care about this? Not really. The final 5 were Ricochet, Jey Uso. The final 4 were Ricochet, Jey Uso, Baron Corbin, and Shinsuke Nakamura. Ricochet got eliminated. Shinsuke Nakamura and Jey Uso were the final 2. Nakamura hits a Kinshasa on Uso. Looks like he's going to win. But Uso reverses that, throws him over, and he gets the win. So Jey Uso is your winner of the Battle Royal. He does get acknowledged by his cousin Roman Reigns as he comes out with the gratitude of winning and doing the family proud. So Jey Uso actually did something that, Roman was proud of, because he might be called main event Jey Uso, but he hasn't really been doing much winning in the main events. So Jey Uso gets the win. Why couldn't this been on the night of WrestleMania is beyond me. I don't know why this couldn't be on the pre-show for night 2. Out comes Roman, back from break. He gets a "you suck" chant. Everyone's been wanting Roman Reigns to be heel for so long. And yes, they want you to boo him at WrestleMania. Will Roman Reigns get a full-time boo from 25,000 or 20-plus thousand fans going into WrestleMania? I don't know. I really don't know. You know what's going to be funny about WrestleMania? WWE can't fudge the numbers. They can't fudge the numbers. They could fudge it to 25,000, I guess, each night, but that's not going to be, and they can't go any higher. They honestly cannot go any higher. That's funny. For the first time in a long time, they can't fudge the numbers. Out comes Roman. He is annoyed he even has to be here. He's not a politician or running for president, which people were making jokes about him being president and Paul Heyman being the vice president, which they say wouldn't be a bad thing. That's kind of funny. He doesn't have to sell himself to the fans. He has bigger things to worry about because he has a match that he doesn't have to get pinned in to lose. But while he's here, he might as well state the obvious. He goes on about showing up to win on Sunday. By the way, he's wearing a new Acknowledge Me t-shirt, so there you go. Says, show day is the easy day. He goes on and knocks Daniel Bryan and Edge for having one good week. Of course, Daniel Bryan having last week, Edge the week before that. Roman has been doing this constantly ever since SummerSlam for 33 weeks in a row. He says the numbers don't lie. Who do you think changed the ratings for this show? Who made this title relevant into the one everyone wants? Pretty much himself. I don't know about that. Yeah. I mean, yeah, he's helped the show a lot. The Universal Championship still isn't really a championship that I give a shit about. I mean, it does look good on Roman. That title has been very, very cursed since its inception. I mean, Finn Balor got injured. Outside of Roman Reigns, and Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns' title run this time. Roman Reigns' first title run ended because he had leukemia. He couldn't keep the championship or defend the title because of leukemia. Same thing, Kevin Owens' first Universal title run was very lackluster. Goldberg held it for a couple weeks, losing it to Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar, of course, held it multiple times. Seth Rollins' first title run was shitty as fuck, especially with that match going into at the Hell in a Cell with The Fiend, which we don't need to talk about. His second title run, which ended very short after that, was also not very good. So yeah, the Universal Championship has had a very, very, very bad run. So, and Brian, I fake you up, tap out. Chant goes out, and Brian says if Brian really did what he's tapping him out, he'd be champion, but he's not and never will be, because on Sunday, he can't make Reigns tap out. He goes on and knocks Edge for saying he had a career snatched away from him. He calls them dreamers and says that's where the story ends and his begins. He calls them a launching pad, the jump-off point, because if he think what he did a year ago was special, wait until he sees what's next. Reigns is the head of the table because he's not a dreamer. Dreamers are selfish, says he's the man with the plan and everything he touches has purpose. Says he saves careers, right, Paul? Hey, who gave you the greatest year of your career? Jay acknowledges him. But Reigns isn't going to do that for Edge or Bryan. He's not making their dreams come true. He's crushing them. Says, Heyman says, this isn't a prediction, it's a spoiler. In the main event of WrestleMania, he's going to wreck everybody, smash them, stack them up, pin them, stand over them, and then with the title in the air, making them see a man greater than them, light years ahead of them. They will see millions of dollars of pyro go off, then hear the whole world acknowledge him, and that is that. The announcers hop up WrestleMania on the network and Peacock, which they like to say exclusively on Peacock, but they yet forget to mention that, yeah, that's true, but it's also going to be happening at WrestleMania is also like it's also going to be happening on the WWE Network everywhere else. And that's how SmackDown goes off the air. Was this a waste of time, SmackDown? Absolutely. Of course, the final show before WrestleMania usually is a waste of time. Even in any other year, they're usually a waste of time. I remember when SmackDown was taped back in the day. The final SmackDown going into WrestleMania used to have one match. One match. That was it. And the rest of the show would be videos from Fan Access, and that was it. You would have all these clips from Fan Access, all these hype packages, and one match. And that used to be SmackDown. This time we got 2 matches, 3 promos, and a bunch of fucking video packages. So, typical SmackDown. So, SmackDown goes off the air, and that was that. Nothing special. I did think all 3 promos were good. Daniel Bryan's was the best. Roman Reigns was really good too. Edge, I really don't care about. The sooner Edge is off my television and is off the WWE television for good, is better for the company. Again, there is that. Now, let's get into this pay-per-view. So, the first match of the night for WrestleMania Night 1 is going to be Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre. I want to say Bobby Lashley is going to win, retain. He should win and retain. Because, honestly, he just won the title 2 weeks after Fastlane, a week after Fastlane. I think it's time for him to get a long, lengthy run. I'd say going into SummerSlam, him versus Brock Lesnar, everyone wants to see that. He beats Brock Lesnar and keeps it, and then loses it on the next pay-per-view. But they're not going to do that. Drew McIntyre most likely going to win to a round of boos. Bad Bunny and Damian Priest versus The Miz and Morrison. Obviously, Bad Bunny and Damian Priest are going to win. Do I care about this match? Absolutely not. The New Day versus AJ Styles and Omos. This is Omos' debut. Obviously, AJ Styles and Omos are going to win. You don't debut a big man like this and have him lose on his first night. It would make no sense whatsoever. So, we have new Raw Tag Team Champions. Braun Strowman versus Shane McMahon. I don't give a shit about this match. Nobody should give a shit about this match. Braun Strowman wins. Cesaro versus Seth Rollins. This one is a toss-up because this is going to be it should be a good match. This should be match of the night, night 1. Plain and simple. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. They are giving these guys the match of the night a chance to be the match of the night. Nothing else outside of Sasha Banks, Bianca Belair should even hold a candle to this match. Seth Rollins, Cesaro. I'm going with Cesaro, but there is a part of me that figures Seth Rollins hasn't had a match since he's come back, has he? Yeah, he had his match with Nakamura, then he had a match against Nakamura last week? He's had 2 matches. He's won them both. Maybe Cesaro wins because it's his first match, singles match at WrestleMania. But knowing WWE and everything they're going to do with Bianca Belair and everything else, I could see this being the down spot in WrestleMania where Seth Rollins wins, but I'm going with Cesaro. Lana and Naomi versus Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose versus the Riot Squad versus Natalya and Tamina versus Billie Kay and Carmella. I don't really care about this match at all. This match should have been tonight, with the winner going to WrestleMania on night 2 to take on the Women's Tag Team Champions. I'm going to say Billie Kay, Carmella just because WWE likes to troll. I really don't care. And in the main event of WrestleMania Night 1, Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair. You give this to Bianca Belair. There is no reason Sasha Banks should win this. She's had the title since Hell in a Cell. This is her longest singles championship run ever. So, yeah, Bianca Belair wins. So, the review Night 1. Drew McIntyre over Bobby Lashley, Bad Bunny and Damian Priest over The Miz and Morrison, AJ Styles and Omos over The New Day, Strowman over Shane McMahon, Cesaro over Seth Rollins, Carmella and Billie Kay in a match that nobody cares about and nobody asked for, and Bianca Belair over Sasha Banks. Now, onto the real pay-per-view of WrestleMania. Night 1 feels like a filler and doesn't deserve to be there. This is the real pay-per-view match. The real WrestleMania night. Asuka versus Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley is beating Asuka. Asuka has had 3 title reigns, I believe, in the last year. Since Money in the Bank. Winning that title at Money in the Bank. Which a lot of people hated. So, she's won the title, lost the title, won the title. I think lost it and then won it again. She's had a really up and down road as Raw Women's Champion. And half the time, it felt like they didn't even care with her being champion. But Rhea Ripley needs to win, get that get that stink off of her for her first WrestleMania last year where she got beat when she shouldn't have. Randy Orton versus The Fiend, I don't really care. This makes no sense, though. Randy Orton burned The Fiend alive at TLC. The Fiend makes his return, takes him out, and you're going to give us a singles match between these two? A singles match. Fiend over Randy Orton, end it all. Don't care. Big E versus Apollo Crews, a Nigerian drum fight for the Intercontinental Championship. Apollo has to win this. Why? Should he? Probably not. But it's his match, his stipulation. He made the match. He wanted a Nigerian drum fight for the Intercontinental Championship. You see how bad my accent is? That's how bad his accent is. But he made this match a Nigerian drum fight. If he doesn't come out as Intercontinental Champion, why make the match a Nigerian drum fight? Why not just make it a one-on-one match? Apollo has to win. Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn on paper should be a fucking battle. Who cares? Kevin Owens over Sami Zayn, in my opinion. Matt Riddle versus Sheamus. Matt Riddle's going to win. This match feels just thrown together to put it on WrestleMania. Honestly, it feels like Sheamus is a fill-in for Keith Lee. With the way it was going, I feel like Keith Lee was going to battle Matt Riddle. And the fact that he's not here, he's still injured or whatever. Matt Riddle over Keith Lee, over Sheamus. Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler over the winners of the Tag Team Turmoil. I think it's time to get these titles off of Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. And Shayna Baszler needs to be feuding with Rhea Ripley. Get that history of the fact that Rhea Ripley beat Shayna Baszler for the NXT Women's Championship in 2019. Yeah, in 2019. And build that and start that feud up again. And I'd say that the winner of the Tag Team Turmoil, which I don't think should be Carmella in them, but that's why I'm just throwing one out there. I don't care. Yeah, so I say Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler lose the titles for the last and final time to whoever wins the night one, whether it's, I don't really care. Whoever wins on night one wins the tag team titles. Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax go their separate ways. And Shayna Baszler feuds with Rhea Ripley for the Women's Championship. Asuka can take time off to let her mouth fully heal. And in the main event of night 2, Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan versus Edge. Honestly, Daniel Bryan's there to take the pinfall. I think Roman should win. But Edge is probably going to win just because WWE wants to be fucking stupid and give Edge that one last big title run before he loses it to Roman Reigns again. And Daniel Bryan needs the pin. No fucking way, shape, or form Roman Reigns should take a pinfall or tap out. His character is built way too strong. If he's going to lose the title, this is the only way he loses the title, with Edge beating Daniel Bryan. So to recap, night 2, Asuka will be losing the title to Rhea Ripley, The Fiend over Randy Orton. Again, who cares? Apollo Crews needs to beat Big E since it's his match. Kevin Owens over Sami Zayn, Matt Riddle over Sheamus, the Tag Team Turmoil winners over Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, and Edge probably winning in the Triple Threat match, even though it should be Roman Reigns. But that is your SmackDown review and your WrestleMania Night 1 and Night 2 predictions. Hit that subscribe button, comment down below, like or dislike this video. Find me on Minds at the France Club, find me on twitch.tv/TheFranceClub, and find me on Instagram at The France Club, and I will see you guys tomorrow for WrestleMania Night 1. Until then, my name is The France, and I will see you guys later.